Hello, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We're the #1 singles internet talks network, and I am so pleased to be here with you tonight. I am Cece Shatz. I am the Doyenne of relationship building. Those of you that haven't met me before, welcome to the show. We love having you, and we want to thank you so much for tuning in. This show is called Going Solo with Cece, and we talk about all kinds of things, anything that relates to singles. So we talk about divorce, we talk about relationship building, transition into dating itself, and just fun stuff. So that's what it's about. But let's do our homework. If you guys want to email me, it's GoingSoloNetwork@gmail.com. Please email me. I love to get your emails, and I will answer them personally. The website all of our shows are on is right up here, right above, GoingSoloMedia.com. We have all of our shows on there so that you can have a listen. And the really cool thing about it is all of our various different hosts are on there, and you can find out all kinds of cool stuff about them. And of course, we're broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you can't stay for the whole show, or if you miss it tonight, just catch the rebroadcast. So we have it there for you at your convenience. But let's get on with the show, because we got a lot of interesting things going on. Let's bring up our guest right now. Hello.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you, Cece.
Oh, we are so excited to have you. We have Kristen Darcy. She's a divorce coach. She's an award-winning author. We have her information up there so that you guys can have it right away. It's KristenDarcy.com. But what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about better understanding your emotional triggers. But before we get into the subject, tell us a little bit about your background. Now, I know you've been on the Today Show, a lot of press, a lot of media. You've been in the business for a long time, helping those really travel through, kind of get their wings again, so to speak. So tell us about you and what made you decide you wanted to be a divorce coach.
Well, it was very interesting because way back when I was 22, I opened my own preschool. And, I had this old grocery store and had this amazing staff, and I had 51 little ones every day. And then when it was my turn to have my children and my family, it just didn't happen. It didn't go the way I had thought. And that opened up, a medical diagnosis of infertility. And I started, doing training to be a coach, a wellness coach, for other women going through infertility. I'm going to date myself. That was pretty far back. It's National Infertility Week this week. And unfortunately, marriages, that is the first crisis that some people go through. And, a medical diagnosis, this turmoil within a relationship. So I kind of quietly started doing divorce coaching for unfortunate relationships with, hit this part that they didn't make it, their relationship didn't make it. So I didn't intend to, be in this arena. And then through my infertility and my personal experience, I have been able to help women in transition, and men too, but mostly women. And I'm really a study of our emotional body. If we believe that we're here, that we're in this physical body, but we also have a mental body, a physical body, a spiritual body, an emotional body, they're all connected. And for me, it took getting that medical diagnosis of infertility to, really awaken to, who I am and what my service is here, but also how I react to things. And boy, was I triggered through that whole process of infertility, and then follow that up by a high conflict divorce. You can't help but be triggered.
I love the subject tonight because triggers can happen for like many different reasons. It can be, through someone experiencing a relationship loss, some of the past things, or like you said, having a hard time. I actually, very early on in my marriage, when I was very young, I had miscarriage, And I thought for a long time, even though I had adopted my daughter at the beginning, I thought I couldn't have children at the very beginning. And I was pretty devastated, which wasn't the case because I went on to have umpteen million kids, it seems like. But I was very emotional about that. Everybody in the family was getting pregnant, having kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here's me. Then later on in my life, I actually had a stillborn. And that was extremely difficult for me to deal with. So again, the triggers were there. Every time you saw someone that was having a baby or even though I had children already, you still felt that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you're so right with the emotional part of it. But I think that, and what I've come to believe is that we're all in a state of transition of some sort. Right. Which is why I wanted you on the show so desperately.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That transition that we're in, sometimes it can be a little bit of a roller coaster ride, can't it?
It can. And what I think is so important for us talking today is that there's a part of us that isn't accepting of that trigger, of that emotional ride. That there's a part of us, that part of our ego and the part that, controls the fight or flight or freeze part of us that is sitting in judgment. And so, you and I just shared our life history, of our journey to this point. And we kind of rattled it off, right? We're kind of just rattling off what happened to us in this life and moving forward. And the word that I like to say is sometimes our emotions get orphaned.
Yeah.
And how you just talked about, having that devastating stillbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it happens for you because, here we are talking about fertility, but, I had a miscarriage. And sometimes around the time that baby should have been born, I'm triggered. And I'll say to myself, what's up? What's going on with myself? Mm-hmm. And then it clicks in. Oh, okay, I get it. And so I think it's so important to talk about that, especially if you're in a transition of being married to being divorced, to being single, to going out dating. The more that we can bring those orphan feelings, those exiled feelings, or the feelings that aren't acknowledged back in, mm-hmm. and tender lovingly say to ourselves, oh, that's okay. Or just acknowledging that you're feeling that way. My kids are so funny because I'll say out loud, okay, I'm triggered right now. and I think if you bring in curiosity of like, okay, what is the feeling? Mm-hmm. Cece, the last month, I've had the privilege of talking to so many brilliant, lovely women. Mm-hmm. And what is really astonishing to me is that what has been coming up repeatedly is that there's a sense of being frozen. We always talk about fight or flight, mm-hmm. but the other third one is being frozen. Mm-hmm. And I think the whole climate of the world, because of the pandemic, has heightened that trigger response of that deer in the headlight. And I know for myself, when I went through all those life traumas or shifting them to be a life awakening, you do have the deer in the headlight moment of what just happened? What am I going to do? That crisis moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this happens for men because I hear it a lot in my divorce support group. I mean, I remember one guy who had gone down the journey of recovery, going through his feelings. He went to a therapist, he was coming faithful to the meetings. He was reading books, doing all the things that we tell him to do, right? All the great things. And he was doing really, really very well. Then one weekend he had to travel or whatever, and he's driving in the car and a song came on.
Yeah.
And he got so emotional again over that, he had to actually stop, the car and get himself together a little bit. And then he just couldn't believe in that. It's like spoiled his whole weekend, right? He just couldn't, I guess he was going away or something. I'm trying, my have the story not exact, but the meaning's there. But anyhow, but it ruined his weekend. And he came back to us and we were talking about it. And he said, I don't understand why that would ruin my whole weekend. Just one song. All I kept doing was thinking of her after hearing that song. And it's those triggers that happen to us. And I love what you said, is because I think what helped get him through it is acknowledging the fact that it was something there. That song did hold some sort of meaning to them.
And I think that's such I feel for that gentleman, but I think it's such a great example, because if we can override that this is an awful feeling because we get triggered, right? And we get protective. But for me, when you tell me that story, I feel for him. I'm so empathetic for him. And it's actually a wonderful, beautiful thing, because it's a release. It's that energy triggered maybe a vision or a feeling or whatever inside him. And it was just that feeling coming up into the light so that he could have an awakening about it and move forward. But in the moment, it feels so uncomfortable.
Yes, he was so uncomfortable. But like I said to him, I said, well, maybe it's, number one, something that you're still needing to deal with, that's within you that you haven't quite dealt with.
Right.
And maybe the next thing is maybe there are some memories you are supposed to remember.
Right.
Because just because going through divorce doesn't mean that all of our memories that we have are bad.
Right.
So maybe we're supposed to cherish some of those golden moments,
Well, there's another way too. That was brilliant what you just said, because what you basically gave him permission to accept that feeling and accept that memory and let that settle in, just like you said, it's okay. And I think if those two powerful questions, what do I feel and what do I need?
Right.
What do I feel right now? And it was interesting because a few of my clients, when they said they were frozen, I was like, well, let's kind of peel that. What did what is that feeling behind being frozen? And it was very interesting because it came down to disappointment. The feeling underneath all that trigger was fear of disappointment. And it is so powerful when you keep asking your questions of yourself. Almost take the stance that you're the parent trying to ask a child what's wrong.
Right.
And say, what are you feeling? Maybe you can say, where is that feeling in your body? Do you see something? Tell me about what that is. Or just write it down. Simply acknowledging, I'm triggered. That going back to that gentleman that you talked about who had that really intense emotional reaction to that song, the ego doesn't let us go there unless we're strong enough to handle what needs to come up to be healed.
Yeah, that's so right. That is so right. Because so often when we go through something that's pretty tragic to us, we tend to kind of do the frozen thing, right?
Right.
Lay still, a little bit dormant, because we don't want to touch those feelings. We kind of tread lightly around those feelings because it's too much for us to handle so many things at one time. So we just take it little bit by little bit, don't we?
Right. So, and then if you can reconnect to those and say, wow, I've done a lot of work, that I was able to look at this and release this. a laughter release, a crying release, sometimes a trigger anger release.
Mm-hmm.
There's stored energy that just needs to come up and get your attention. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a roller coaster, like you said. It's a process. But if the more thoughtful, loving kindness you can self-shine, the easier those feelings will be the next time they come around.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
Yeah, you're so right with that. Now, I wonder if there's any particular steps that one can take when they're going through, a divorce or relationship loss of some sort, and they find themselves being triggered by various different things. Because sometimes it's more than just one thing that triggers us, isn't
Right.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's a system. I always talk about the toolbox. And something, one of your tools that would work today might not work 2 days, from now. So as long as you keep, cultivating what feels right for you, I have a system called Divorcing with Grace, and it was really kind of based on some strategies I used when, I was faced with that medical diagnosis of infertility. And one of the big ones is a gratitude list.
Mm-hmm.
And there's fear and there's scarcity around such a loss of a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more fuel you could give your brain to connect to the neuro centers that, okay, everything's okay. I had a client the other day who said to me, Kristen, when we started working together, you said, okay, let's do a gratitude list. And sometimes I have my clients text me their gratitude list. I'd rather have people write it down because you're engaging that logical and emotional part of your cortex of your brains. And she unfortunately faced something very, very traumatic, and she's so powerful that the next time we were talking, she said to me, I thought that was a cute activity to do, kind of to keep my mind working. And she goes, but if I didn't do that for the months that I did, I don't think my recovery would have been as fast, because I really was able to look at the situation and say, what am I grateful for here?
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in a trauma situation, of course, your body goes into fight or flight or freeze, and it's an organic, cortisol, all these chemical mixes within your body that gets triggered too. So when you're having a triggered moment and maybe you're breathing shorter or you feel flushed or whatever happens in your body, the system might be to get to know that. I'm going to be aware of when I get triggered. Mm-hmm. But to go back to what you can do, 10 things each day you're grateful for, even if you don't do it every day, even if maybe you do it every other day, just noticing what you can be grateful for. Then setting your intention every day. And it doesn't have to be, this big, long intention. I think you and I talked about this before, just putting your feet on the floor and the first thing that you say every day, thank you, mm-hmm. is an intention.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the gratitude, because I think having the gratitude, it shifts your mindset into a positive. And by shifting your mindset into the positive, it raises your vibration level.
Of course.
Yes. It keeps you going into that path versus down into the other path. So I think that is so, and I personally think we should be doing that all the time, because it keeps everything that's going on in our world, especially in today's world. We need positive energy. We need to be uplifted. And there are wonderful things that are happening in our lives that we can take the negative and focus on the positive. So you're so right with that. We're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this, because I love the fact that even though we can't always control the triggers that happen in our lives, we can control our reactions to those. And
exactly.
So a little bit about that when we get back. I love having you here. I want to show everyone your information, because I do want them to go into your website. Your website is Kristen Darcy. That's KRISTENDARCY.com. And on her website, she has the Divorcing with Grace on there. And so I think that is something that you all might want to take advantage of. And so I think it's a download that you have.
I do. And I think if it's not up as a complimentary download, if you email me, I'll send you the link and you can get it just for a gift today.
Yeah, so you just want to go on there. And then again, she is an award-winning author, and we do have her books. We'll be sharing that here. Her phone number is 508-962-3099. And of course, if you want to send her an email, you send her an email and she'll send you the information. Make sure you have anything that's coming out, that any newsletter or whatever she might very well have. But it's Kristen, KRISTEN at KristenDarcy.com. So make sure that you guys do reach out to her and get her information. Today, of course, we're talking about better understanding your emotional triggers. We're going to talk more about that when we get back. So I want to thank you so much for sticking with us here. We'll be right back. We're back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You know, it's a little hard for me because I'm on the back end doing everything. And so when
you're doing a great job.
Yeah, we pop up to the front end. It's like, I gotta get busy here. It's all good, all good. Those of you that are tuning in now, you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am Cece Shatz, a Doyenne of relationship building. This show is called Going Solo with Cece. We have our wonderful guest here with us today. We're talking about better understanding your emotional triggers with Kristen Darcy. She's a divorce coach. She's an award-winning author. Many things under her belt. She's been around for a long time, not meaning that you're older. Like, wait a minute, that's a trigger in itself. But you know, you've helped many, probably thousands, being able to get through some of the dark times in their lives. And so I think this is an important subject, emotional triggers. And the first part of the show, we talked about really kind of understanding those triggers a little bit more, and how, we can really get in tune with them, acknowledge them, to be able to move forward in our life, start to understand what it is. And then we talked about what we can do about, trying to reach the positive, writing down positive things every day, things of gratitude, and raising our vibration level. So let's get back to it and talk a little bit more about these emotional triggers. So we are triggered by many things that happen within our lives. It could be anything. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, or whatever. I mean, there's emotional triggers in all that we do, because we're humans. But, and then we talked about the gratitude. But what I wanted to focus on a little bit more is the fact that even though we may have these triggers in our lives, they're kind of, aren't they kind of like a learning experience for us?
I look at it that way, that when emotion comes up to get your attention, you got to think of it like a little toddler trying to get your attention, like, okay, look at this, what does this mean for you? What can you learn from it? I think that is one of the healthiest ways to look at, emotion. I love that you said we can also get triggered positively too. Mm-hmm. And the more that you get accustomed to what makes you feel joyful, what makes you feel happy, put your attention on those kinds of triggers too. That's very powerful. So when you're getting these feedback from yourself, like either you're feeling uncomfortable or you're feeling joyous or you're feeling, excited, it's good to cultivate a relationship with those also. I want to tell a story. A long time ago, I'm not the best meditator. And when we're talking about what tools you can put in your toolbox, quieting your mind and going into your heart center is a brilliant way of connecting within to that inner peace, that inner core, that inner spirit that's you. And so way back when, it's probably 15 or 20 years from now, back, I was like, I'm not a very good meditator. How can I teach someone else to meditate if when I'm supposed to be meditating, I'm thinking, God, I got to do the dishes, I got to go grocery shopping, and I got to get those 3 things done for work. So I took this course with this amazing woman, and Cece, she asked these 2 questions at the beginning. A feeling that you'd like to feel more of, and we wrote that down. And the second one was a feeling you'd like to feel less of. And I don't know why, but I had some resistance to this. Like, I am such a champion of like 21, 28 day challenges, because you really need that time and process to create that neural net when you're trying to create a new habit or a new way of looking at things. So I really encourage people who are listening to this to get, understand your emotional triggers, just to write that down, because I didn't know it then, but that's an intention. A feeling I'd like to feel less of, what is that? And a feeling I'd like to feel more of, that was the intention for the 28-day process. And then she had us write down that brilliant Louise Hay affirmation. I love and accept myself. And fast forward now, and years ahead, I'm working with Dr. Diana Kirshner, and in her book, Love in 90 Days, she has that same affirmation, but at the end adds, and I'm entitled to miracles.
Oh, wonderful.
So I really encourage my clients and myself, that's another go-to tool for me, that when I'm feeling a little wobbly or feeling a little sensitive or maybe unappreciative or, unappreciated or whatever that feeling is that kind of goes, ugh, it just doesn't feel right. I go back to that. I write it down in my journal and I do it, 28 days. I put it on sticky notes. It's actually on my computer right now. That's what I'm looking at. And I put it where I can notice. And it just has this amazing shift.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I love and accept myself, and I'm entitled to miracles. Because I don't know about you, but when I was brought up, we weren't taught that. Like, it's okay to accept yourself, to love yourself, no matter what warts you have. And there is miraculous things that happen in this world. Even every day when we're not seeing miraculous things.
That's so true. And sometimes we have to just have faith, don't we? That tomorrow will come, it will be a better day. And, that all of this shall pass, and, it's you just got to put one foot in front of the other. And so sometimes when we're down in the trenches, we just have to kind of do that. But I love the idea of having concrete physical things in which to do, because when we write things down, we acknowledge them more, we accept them more. We start making that transition from our minds, from our pen to our minds. So we want to try to keep that going. That's why I tell everyone in my divorce group, to read 15 minutes a day. I don't care what
That's wonderful.
you do. Just read something positive, something that's enlightening to you. 15 minutes. You don't have to go over 15 minutes. Just do 15 minutes a day. And
I love that, because it quiets that part of us that when we're under pressure or when we're triggered and confused, you might feel like you don't know what to do.
Right.
And so if your brain can look for, okay, I'm going to do this, that also brings it settles you within. And just really, putting your hand on your heart and taking 3 deep breaths, in through the nose, out through your mouth. Those little mini relaxations are just so powerful when you feel triggered or anxious or emotionally upset. So I really, my tried and true is that affirmation. And, those feelings that you'd like to feel less of and the feeling you'd like to feel more of, those change.
Yes, absolutely. So every day or every week, you might even have a different one, as you move forward. I know I like to get these little sayings that you stick around on stuff.
I love that too. Yeah.
I do that all the time and maybe that's a girl thing. I don't know, but it feeds my mind, and therefore it feeds my heart. And so, again, we're like a big well, and we have to keep filling it up with positive things. And so that will minimize the triggers that you have, because what it does, it creates a shift in your life, and it gives you that self-confidence to move forward in the path of your choice. Yeah. And that's something we forget all the time, that we have a choice of how we want to proceed in our lives.
You do. And you have a choice of how to react too. The other day I was on the phone wasn't a client, but it was somebody who was very triggered. And I was pulling out every tool I have in my coaching box to settle it down. And after I got off the phone, I noticed my daughter had come in and wrote down, remain calm and be the bigger person. And that was some of the, the things that I say to my kids growing up, remain calm, and then choose to be loving, choose to be the bigger person. And I think for people going through a divorce, or people in a transition, or people in a loss, our first instinct isn't to be self-loving,
right,
but self-critical. And that's why I really truly love that affirmation, because I always say awfulizing, like you look to yourself of what you coulda, woulda, shoulda,
right,
and instead of wasting that energy to coulda, woulda, shoulda and shoulding on yourself, if you can shorten that time and go into the self-love, that's very powerful, for everybody around you.
Absolutely. You're so right with that. The other thing is sometimes, looking back on our lives, the things that we were so fearful of, or that we thought were so awful, end up being a very powerful movement, a powerful shift that's happened within us. And so when we look at some of those shifts, they've created us to go in a different path or a different direction in our lives that's really actually opened ourselves up to something totally unexpected. Right. And so when we're having these triggers, when you're really like, and I know it might be hard for people if they're really going through an emotional, emotional time, to just think that maybe this is a shift that's happening in your life that's going to create something that you've never dreamt of. And
Exactly.
doing positive, these positive movements that you've mentioned, the affirmations and all of these other various different steps. And I think going into your website, of course, KristenDarcy.com, looking at the Divorcing with Grace there. Also your book, you have a book here too about, what is it, a practice of grounding to combat uncertainty.
Yes, grounding. Because sometimes when we get triggered, literally we're not connected within our body. And the more you can stay in here. But Cece, I love what you said, because it really is an awakening or an initiation to the next part of your life, that you have to go through this crisis point to get to this awakening that something is coming to elevate your life. And I have been trying to practice that. Just last week I had some really emotional triggers, and I was like, wow, something big must be coming, because these are pretty intense. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised. Like, I was like, there you go, girl. You're equating these really emotional, stressful feelings to, oh, this must be an end of a cycle. This must be a start of a new cycle. And I think the more we can help each other to grieve or move through whatever pain we're going through, to shift it to say, something must be happening that is going to elevate me or change my life for the better. And right now it's just clearing the muck. And I love how you said that, initiation, awakening, a new beginning. Mm-hmm. But it's a process, it's a process.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're in that muck, you can't see. You can't see your hands before your face. Yeah. I totally get that. But I will tell you that what I've experienced in life, what I thought was the end of the world, was really just a brand new beginning, and something I never thought I would be doing or experiencing or loving so much. So, I just look at the divorce. Sometimes the divorce can, even if it's something you don't want, it could be a forever changing experience for you in a positive direction. And so I love what you say about, really just catching on to the positive train, right?
Yeah.
Those aren't your words, but that's what I get from you, is that, the words of affirmation, the gratitude, all of these positive meditation, quieting your mind, your heart, your spirit, allowing goodness to come within your life. These are all things that can create a beautiful transition in your life. So I think you're awesome. I think it's
well, you know what? You shine your light for everyone. I mean, like, you're just of service to everyone who's going through this.
Thank you. But I love this. Now, where can we find your book at?
On my website. It's
all right. Everything's right there on the website.
Everything's right there. It's on Amazon too, but the portal through my website. Because I always have goodies up, because I love giving goodies. So it's good to go to my website, because maybe it'll be a goodie of the month or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's important to be able to contact you and get involved with what you're doing, because again, if we're going through something in our lives that we can't explain, we're feeling the way we're feeling, and that's transition and being depressed and whatnot, to connect with positive, outstanding individuals. That's really what we want to do. And so everyone, her website is KristenDarcy.com. And again, please email her at Kristen@KristenDarcy.com. Her phone number, if you want to give her a quick call, it's 508-962-3099. You can give her a call. If she doesn't answer, just leave a message, whatever. She'll get back in touch with you, but not to worry. But you're just a star, really, for those that are.
You know what, Cece? I think it's so important to know that you're not alone.
Oh yeah,
and that's what this platform, going solo, the whole, your website, you're just not alone with this. And I think that's maybe the last message, that you might feel alone and feel lonely, but you're not alone. Just ask for that help, and there's so much help out there.
Well, there's so many people in the same boat. We're all kind of, paddling in that same boat together. So why not start to get to know each other, and lend a hand to each other and support each other. That's really what it's about. So again, you all, this show is about better understanding your emotional triggers. We ask you, what are your triggers, right? And if you need a little help with those in that transition, definitely reach out to Darcy, and it's KristenDarcy.com. I'm sorry, it said your last name, KristenDarcy.com. So yeah, definitely. Now we're going to have to wrap up the show here, but are there any last words you'd like to leave our audience here today?
I think we had such a wonderful conversation, but just to focus on, being in tune with what you need at the moment, and you're not alone. Ask for help. Be brave enough to ask for help, and someone will come. The universe will serve up what you need, because, we're all here together. So thank you so much, Cece. I so appreciate it.
Well, you're so welcome, and we appreciate you so much. This is a very important topic, because we do, no matter how we're moving through, if we feel like we've gone through the divorce and we're then into the transition of dating, or transition into whatever else that we want to do for our next step in our life, we still keep sometimes having those triggers. And they can be a very positive experience if we choose to look at them like that. And sometimes we need help being able to see the bigger picture of everything. And so I want to thank you so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
I think you're fabulous. So again, everyone, let's make sure we share the information. Kristen Darcy, she's a divorce coach. She's an award-winning author. Her phone number is 508-962-3099. Kristen at KristenDarcy.com. Email her, let her know what you're going through, and I'm sure she'll reach out right back to you. Again, her website is KristenDarcy.com. So
thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
love you. Thanks for having me.
We love having you. We hope you come out back on again and share some more with us, because I tell you what, a divorce coach, really, they do a lot, and there's a lot of different transition parts that we go through, really relationship building. And so you build that relationship with yourself, with others, and as you continue to transition into your life. So a divorce coach can certainly, such as yourself, really help move you forward in a very positive way. So thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. We love you. Okay. All right, everyone. The show went by very quickly. I am Cece Shatz, a Doyenne of Relationship Building. You're watching Going Solo with Cece on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. And we're a radio, TV, and podcast station. We are live both here on the Facebook and YouTube channel. Then we drop it down into our live streaming radio station, so you can listen to that. All you need to do is go to GoingSoloMedia.com, click the listen button, and you can listen to us live there. And of course, I wanted to share with you, if you'd like to check out anything that we're doing, go to GoingSoloNetwork.com, and that's where all of it's like our parent website, where all of our information is there that you can join us. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you'll reach out to Kristen and let her know that what she's doing is so valuable, and how she's helping it to change lives, to shift people's lives, and help moving them forward. And I hope that if you need the help, all you have to do is just reach out, and we're here for you. So love you guys. I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.